loud and clear.
Yes, it is.
Kate, what happened to your earphones? Oh, Kate's not listening.
I'm not sure Kate can hear us yet.
Oh, right.
Okay. See there? She couldn't hear us until she got the earphones, but you were so curious.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah, I was like, what happened to your earphones?
Yeah, I was on my one's on my phone, like my volume up, like why isn't this working?
Nice.
Sometimes I do, when I'm like going between Zoom and clients, I do both. Stick them under.
That makes sense. It's a little sad, but it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's a chaotic world.
Mm-hmm.
Me and I were just saying.
What? Okay, guys, it's been a little bit of a crazy day. I'm sorry. Okay. Where are we here? Let's give it a few more minutes. Yeah. Did Quentin get a haircut?
I did. I've been wearing my headphones, so it's harder to tell.
Go out in public for it, or?
What's that?
Did you do it at home, or did you go out in public?
I always cut my hair at home, really. For the last 10 years, I've probably gotten like
the
5.
second time during this project this has happened. So, you know, it's
true.
Oh, it's a way to track
we can keep
progress.
our time, exactly.
We can see
the length
if you look back at the older videos, I've literally just gotten fatter as the 2 months have gone. So you start like this being sedentary is like really not okay. So I think we've got, and James also got the haircut, so that's another thing that we can talk about. Right. So who else are we waiting for? I think we've got the majority of the people that we need here. So today we're going to be kind of dishing out forms and pairing people up, checking in with the people
Maeve. We got to stop and recognize anticlimactic day after launch day.
Yeah, right.
Seriously. Oh gosh.
So David, would you like to just make a big announcement that maybe not everyone saw?
Oh, well, maybe people saw it in the Slack, but they signed the MOU. So the URL for the site is no longer a secret. A little warning banner that says this is not real is gone.
Unless you're cached. Just clear that cache.
Although I think that actually you were looking at the test site I was sending you, in which case those banners should be there. Yeah, and so we're going to consider this a soft launch because there are a couple of other things we want to get up before we do a real launch with a social media push. I think Quentin and I will that'll coincide with a talk we're giving tomorrow. But right now there's a TRO up there and people could use it and it would go to the court and
wow.
Yeah, like I say, anticlimactic day after launch day. Yay.
I'm not anticlimactic. I'm still excited. Maybe hangover day after launch day.
I woke up and saw it and I was like, yes, this is what we've been waiting for. But I missed the whole countdown. David did a countdown in our chat, like, okay, some exciting news is coming. Right, so that's big news and a huge milestone. So congratulations to everybody who's been doing work so far, and to the people who have since left the project due to time constraints and finals and all that kind of stuff. They were also a huge part of us achieving this. So congratulations to everybody thus far. And now onwards and upwards. So we're not going to rest on our laurels. We're going to keep working and hopefully get your forms and interviews up there sooner than later. So in that vein, I think what I wanted to talk about is the maybe reshuffling a little bit of certain groups and then the assignment of some new forms. So Lance Goddard isn't on this call, but Lance and I will be taking on the civil action cover sheet, which is a new form that's going to be added to the process. Then there's 2 other forms that we identified yesterday, the motion to dismiss and the marriage without delay. We're going to do a certain part of that one. And basically out of the current team, so we've got some new members. We've got Aubrey, Matthew, Nick, and okay, so Anvita is only going to be with us until the 3rd of July. So I'm thinking that we're going to put her with testing. So don't feel left out. We're going to onboard you into the testing process, which is getting really exciting this week. I don't want to jinx anything, but we're there. We're there, guys. We had a good call today, and we're having a later one at 4 as well. to kind of like just iron out those kinks. So you'll be coming into like, hopefully like a pretty well-oiled ship, well-oiled machine. What is the saying? Okay, so
grease the wheels. I don't know.
I'm just mixing up. Let's not mix metaphors. Okay, so yeah, so Anvita, we don't feel left out of this. We just basically the idea behind it is that Anvita only has a certain amount of time to volunteer with this project, and so we don't want to waste her time by onboarding her, you know, through the 2-week process that you guys have gone through. Instead, what's much quicker to learn about is, or hopefully, is the testing, and it's extremely valuable aspect to this project. So we think that that's probably going to be the best use of your time. And we'll take you through that at some point today. But then who's going to be learning the coding is Nick, Aubrey, Matt is not on this call. And then Jack is going to be moving across from the team that he was on with Mia and Vinny. And because he's got some experience already, he's going to kind of help that a certain team move forward. So I'm not sure how we're going to split these teams. Do we want it to be a team of 4 or 2 teams of 2? Anybody speak to that? David?
I think
Michelle.
4 gets a little
Complicated?
complicated as to who's doing what and where each person is. So
Okay.
if we do have 2 forms, I'd suggest splitting into 2.
We do have 2 forms. Okay. So then I'm just looking at my screen. This is basically how I'm going to do it. We can do Aubrey and Matt Millard because Millward, because you guys were on the call together. I know he's on this call. We'll assign you the motion to dismiss, and what that means is that I'll link you the Trello card. If there is one, if there isn't one, then I'll make a Trello card, and you basically run through the process that the other team members on this call have done. It depends on where that is in the if it hasn't been labeled and all that kind of stuff, you have to start right at the beginning, and we'll be here to just kind of show you the documentation and guide you through that process. And Aubrey, you're kind of taking the wheel on this because you're going to have to explain to Matt what's going on, but yeah, we'll help you out there. And then the other team will be Nick and Jack. So you guys will be doing the marriage without delay. Now I know that that's already on the Trello board, so I'll link that to you, and then we can also have a look at it and see what needs to be done and kind of set up like some action points for you guys going forward.
So just to clarify, we're not like moving on from the forms that they did. What we're going to start doing is putting people on forms that have been done. So switching who's working on the forms to get experience reading other people's code, to get a second eye on the existing code, and to go through the part of the process that involves SME and language edits and refinement. So, but because they don't have a different one to jump onto yet, we're moving, we're covering 2 new forms, but we will start moving.
Everyone will get shifted. It'll be like move 1 to the left, kind of if we were in real life, right? Like something like that. I don't know. We'll figure something out. So it's so get ready to make some new friends, I guess is the upshot of that point. Maybe what we can do quickly is then just open the floor to see if there's any blockers, and if there aren't any blockers, to ensure that everybody has action points going forward. And I know that somebody had to talk to Quentin and Michelle. I think that might have been Sinead. Should have written this down, I'm sorry. Someone was going to talk to Quentin and Michelle yesterday, and I can't remember. Do you guys end up talking or not? Do I have to go and have a look at the mint?
We actually figured out what we were struggling with yesterday, so we got that done today. And me and Sinead spoke there earlier, and we think we're ready for the form. Like, we're ready for some feedback and maybe for it to be reviewed.
Oh, fantastic. That's brilliant.
That's great.
It was the attachment, wasn't it? Wasn't it putting an attachment to a Word document?
No, it was
signature, I think, right? The signature.
Preview page, I think, as well.
Oh, the preview. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys figured out that issue. Is there any chance Mike did a very good write-up of his kind of thing that he learned yesterday? Is there any way that we could just ask you guys to, between the 2 of you, figure out and just put that on the channel? That would be really helpful. And congratulations on figuring that out on your own. It's one less thing for Michelle and Quentin to try and fit into their schedules, because I know it is very packed. But that's not to discourage you guys from reaching out. We're always very happy to help, even me with my little knowledge. So I think that's the first team, Sinead and Finola. Mia and Vinny and erstwhile Jack, we're going to do an SME review with Kate. That's coming up today.
I think
it is.
Did that. I'm like everything, but yes, we just did that. Sorry.
Okay.
The groups were together. I'm sorry.
Okay, so you guys have done that, and what's the
and they're
next
looking
step now?
great. They have like an awesome form.
Oh, good.
Everyone
Good
does.
job, guys.
I'm
really excited to hear that.
For our group, we just had one quick question, and that might be towards David and Quentin. We were just making sure, because we talked to Kate about this, when the form is done by the user, is it being sent automatically to the court, or do we need to make a final page giving the user instructions of what to do next?
So these forms will be able to get filed directly with the court.
Okay.
But there might be something for further instructions, which could be, could you please call the court if you haven't heard back from them, or we anticipate that you will hear back from the court within 24 hours.
And is that like an SME thing to put that together, specific to the
Sounds
forms?
very likely.
I
Okay.
think
Sounds very likely.
there'll be like some really general instructions that we could use the same for every form. Right now, the TRO is our model. I don't think, we haven't really had a chance to see how people interact with that yet. So
Yeah, I think there are some special instructions that might need to go with those, and I can write those.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kate.
And some of the forms won't work that way. Some of the forms won't be sent to the court, but we'll deal with those later, just to give you a heads up.
I think the ones students are working on now, all of the ones we've identified as priorities are going to be court forms.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
So just to go back, Sinead and Finola, they said that they're ready for review. Now, should that be an SME review, or do you want to just do a first pass review? You know, maybe we just get a few people together who have some time to, like, you know, crit, kind of what we did with Jason, James, and Eleni, where we kind of, Jason took us through the form and stuff, and we kind of all absorbed it and maybe made some suggestions. Or do you want to go straight to, or is the next step really going to an SME? You guys did the notice of limited appearance. So I'm not sure. It's Kate. I'm very cautious of overloading you, especially.
I mean, so I definitely, it's a form I'm like super familiar with. My one concern is if it was just me, I don't know for sure that different courts, like Quentin was saying some things about like the housing court in that form, and I worry that different courts might have unwritten rules on it that are a little different. So I would worry if it was just me. Because like I know how the district courts and probate courts deal with it. I just would worry that like maybe the housing courts have some fluke I don't know about.
So are you saying that this form we're gonna need like maybe a double SME check?
I don't know. What do you think, Quentin?
I think that's right, and I think we should be able to get feedback because a lot of people will want this automated, and it's a form that advocates use directly.
So could I ask?
Recruit.
Could I ask Sinead and Finola, Kate, to you guys to liaise offline and to try and identify a time, and then once you guys have done that, perhaps it'll be by tomorrow, and then we can identify another SME who has experience in sports that Kate doesn't have the experience that she feels necessary. And we can identify that. And then
Matt Brooks in for like a minute.
Oh, you guys will love Matt. I love Matt.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I'm just my flag for readability edits at some point on all of these forms.
I was saying notice of limited appearance will always be done by an attorney. Not that it shouldn't be readable for attorneys, but attorneys can deal.
Yeah, so that's not a priority.
Yeah,
although there was an attorney this morning who was saying that after doing this readability training, he's so appreciative of when people do readability for documents on mass legal services. He's just, you know, anyway, judges appreciate readability as well, just for.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, sorry. The next thing is Jason, James, and Eleni. You guys showed us your form last week, Friday. You said you were making improvements yesterday. I think that was the thing. You were kind of still kind of fine tuning it and stuff. Where are you guys at today?
So I think we just have some more fine tuning to do. We met this morning
Okay.
and we fixed most problems, but for example, we're gonna meet with Quentin tomorrow morning to just like smooth everything out.
Okay, fantastic. And then the next step for you guys would also be SME review.
I met with them
Oh,
yesterday.
good job. Just on it. Jeez, Kate. How many hours do you have in your days? That's
Yesterday was busy.
Okay. Okay, and then we've got, okay, so that's Mia and Vinny. You've also met with, the next step is to do testing. Is that the next step we're going to do with on that form? It's the generic
Maybe
motion for family law.
When do we switch? Is testing a good time to switch up who's working on what, or?
Yeah, perhaps. My hope is that we have the automated testing, the semi-automated testing done by end of today, tomorrow. So we'll be ready to start people making templates. Of course, that's going to incur like learning a whole new skill. So it could be a good time.
They could write scenarios, was my thought. That might be a good step because it really is a whole different process. I don't know what processes we want them to focus on. We'll discuss that a bit more later.
Okay, that's a good idea though, the scenarios, because having worked closely with the form, you should know what the various scenarios are going to be. Okay, I like that.
Thinking about that is also a skill. Thinking about what to test is also a skill.
So the action point for Mia and Vinny then, because do we have, or perhaps we'll have, who else is ready for SME review? Finola and Sinead, I guess. What we could essentially do is do like a little switcheroo, or we could keep, because now it's 2-2, we could have Mia and Sinead and Finola and Vinny, and each one has some confidence in the form, and we kind of switch the teams around like that.
Yeah,
they're kind of at the same space,
but I agree with you.
Okay, we'll figure it out. So the action point for Mia and Vinny then is to, maybe we can just start taking them through the test scenarios and showing you guys how the testing works.
Sure.
Yeah, Michelle, do you agree with that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so that'll be, we'll liaise about that offline. I'm also just very conscious because we've got 12 minutes because we've got a hard stop at 1. So then we've got Mike and Tyler. You guys were also just working through your interview. Is there any update on from your side?
Nothing yet. We have something scheduled for after the training Tuesday with Quentin, so that's when we'll get a good portion of what we need to get done. That's
Perfect.
it.
So for the training Tuesdays, if there's a 10-minute, 5-minute something or other, for those who haven't created GitHub accounts, please do create GitHub accounts.
Okay, and then we've got Ishan here, who he's working with Marty on the request for appointed counsel, the guardianship one, the minor. Ishan, you guys haven't been as involved in the stand-ups, so I'm not sure if you want to speak on behalf of you and Marty on your progress.
So I think we're almost finished with the form, but we just encountered an issue with doing the names because I think when the wizard ran it through, it discounted some of the fields that should have been there. So we just have to work on it maybe like one more day, I think.
And are you okay to do that by yourself, or are you looking for somebody to help you with that?
We've asked for help before, and if we need it, we can ask again. But I think
Perfect.
Michael and I are in agreement that we could be able to do it ourselves.
Okay, well, the rule is don't struggle on it for, I think the rule is half an hour, but, don't bang your head against a wall unnecessarily for a long time. You can reach out immediately, once you felt like you've exhausted all your, I don't know. Ishan is actually in high school, for those of you who don't know. He's, yeah, it's really cool. Isn't that, we've got all age groups here. It's fantastic.
Around the globe, all the age groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Ishan is probably our youngest team member as well. So that's something as well. And him and Muddy are doing a great job on that form. And then we'll send the new links to the new teams. So that's just to refresh. That's going to be Aubrey and I've forgotten already. It was Jack and Nick and Aubrey and Matt. Okay, and I'll send you those new forms when we get off after Training Tuesday. So then the next thing we're going to talk about is we've launched the housing TRO. So what else do we talk about with the housing TRO?
I mean, phase the iteration phase would start then for the housing TRO.
So the issues that we identified as like phase 2 issues that weren't showstoppers that need to now be incorporated.
Right. And I don't know if that's what we're prioritizing though. We need to decide what we're prioritizing about the next phase. Right.
Okay, that'll be a.
It might make sense before going into phase 2 on the TRO to see what other things now that it's live. I mean, we had ideas about what we wanted to do for it, but now that it's live, look at analytics after a month and see, and then deal with all of that together.
That's a good idea.
I do think
another thing that
the one thing we can start thinking about explicitly is the court selector. Because we could, once we have that, we can fold that back into the TRO. So it would be nice to see the court selector folded back into the TRO and subsequent forms as well.
Oh, there's Matt. And he's just been, welcome Matt. We've actually just thrown you in a team with Aubrey.
Oh yeah, sorry that I'm coming in late.
No, don't worry. I just wanted to let you know. And between Aubrey and the rest of us, we'll let you know what's expected and the action points going forward offline. So I just wanted to go back to that TRO question. Jody had mentioned having I think I can't remember the exact terminology, but we'd have a week reviews after a week, and then reviews after 2 weeks, and then reviews after a month, maybe as it became more stable or as it had been launched for longer. I'm not sure what that was, but maybe that's something we can also add to the management talks about, thinking about how often we're going to do reviews.
Releases. Mm-hmm.
So that's something to talk about. And then the 209A, we're in private beta. I know Caroline was going to talk to those 3 advocates. Did you manage to get in touch with them?
No, I haven't heard back from any of them.
Advocates.
Oh, that was, I thought, really helpful.
Sorry,
what did you say, Quentin?
Kate had just posted some feedback.
Yeah.
That was from an intern, not a real user, though.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the feedback was valuable, but it's not real. I mean, real, but
right. That's a very good point.
So I think, what I did, it was the end of the day by the time I emailed everybody. I'm going to try and call them, but I don't think I can even phone them till Thursday. I'm just back to back for the next couple of days. But,
and maybe if you haven't heard from them, I don't know, by when I can talk to Laura about if she has ideas.
Yeah, we might as do everything, reach out every way we can. Yeah, we could just,
Coming up with a couple of events that invite a bunch of people, I think that might really be key.
What did you say, Quentin?
If we're ready for that, coming up with a couple of events for different groups where there are 15 or 20 people who can watch a demo live.
Yeah.
Might be key. Because then they've committed to seeing it. A passive link that they can click on and do later is always something they can put off.
Yeah.
Sure.
I do think, I know you said this probably isn't possible. If we could get this in the hands of the Court Service Center, I do think that's where a lot of 209As are going through right now. But I think you said that's not feasible.
So wait, so my understanding is in the before times, people would probably get diverted before the Court Service Center for 209As. Is it just that now that's not the case?
I talked to a friend who works in one of the Court Service Centers. It sounds like she is getting a fair number of them. And the courts are being mixed. She works up north, and I guess Lawrence is letting them assist, and Lowell is saying no, that person has to call the court, and Lowell's going to do its handwritten thing over the phone. But
do you have any sense what? So that's on a sort of center by center basis, do you have any sense if there's a general policy
On the 209As?
for the court service center?
A general, sorry, I didn't catch one of the words.
A general policy for the 209As from the court service center?
I'm not sure, but I do have contact information for, I think, the person who's maybe, I don't know if she's just Suffolk or if she's like really in
Yeah,
charge.
I know I could talk to the person who helps run them, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't breaking any news to them that they didn't already know about what their people were doing.
Yeah, I mean, I know they're not supposed to, like, really not supposed to give legal advice, but maybe this is something they could use. I don't really know their policies that well.
It's kind of the niche that MAID is filled, is that for the court service center, where they're not supposed to give advice, but it in itself gives them advice and guidance in filling out the form correctly. So it helps them stay on the right side of that internal policy, whether or not it's the actual requirement they have as court service center.
We're still talking about court service centers responding to DV advocates trying to fill out 209As, not the public,
So
right?
I'm just going to be the bad guy here and say that this sounds like a conversation.
Another conversation, yeah.
We've got 4 minutes, and I have an important question. Does anybody here speak Spanish? Write Spanish, maybe? Is that more important?
My intern does. My real job intern. She's a native speaker, and she expressly wants to do translation and interpretation, if that's what you're getting at.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. So that's fantastic. I will reach out to you offline and just indicate what we needed help with there.
Okay. Is it that like spreadsheet of website things?
Yeah.
I linked her to that because I saw it.
Kate is just blowing it up. If there was a star chart, it would.
I gave her like a bunch of annoying phone calls to do for me today, but hopefully she can get to that. To like.
Oh, fantastic! I didn't realize that. Okay, thank you so much for letting us know about that. That's great. Okay, so then we're 3 minutes already. I'm gonna hand over to Michelle. Maybe we can,
Can I just ask?
Sorry. Let me open the floor to questions.
A favor request, and I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. In the context of 209A, it would be nice to show our users what a restraining order actually looks like. And I have a blank restraining order, but it's not fillable. It's just the flat one. And if anybody has, and I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but if I'm allowed to ask, I'm asking if anybody has PDF software, if they could make it fillable, then Kate's intern can fill it out because she hasn't got PDF.
Yeah, and she has a Mac,
software,
so she can't install
the free stuff. And then
we
we can have a sample 209A order so people know what it looks like.
Does someone just have a scanner? Because someone could just hand write out.
Yeah, but I think what we'd like to do is have a filled in one, computer filled in, because then of course, same reason that it makes it easier for the courts to read, it makes it easier and when most 209A orders I don't think are handwritten now coming out of the court.
Yeah. Well, also I don't think you need to
that
make
a judge would give, right? It's not the request.
No, it's the order, not the complaint. Exactly.
I don't think you need to make a full fillable form.
That's all I'm asking.
Right on
I
top
have the
of it.
form. I'm just asking for a volunteer to make it fillable.
She already
I don't
has
think
the
you
form,
need to make it
but-
fillable to type on it.
Pardon?
If you just want to type on it, if you have a Mac, you can just use the existing PDF viewer to just type on top of it.
So how about this? It seems like this is also becoming kind of more of a conversation. So how about David and Caroline talk about that offline?
Okay.
Kate, I think, because it's going to be Kate's intern.
Perfect.
Yeah, I worry I have her pretty occupied for the next couple days, but
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, maybe if there's somebody else, maybe out of Mia, I'm looking at Mia and Vinny, because I know that you're going to be sitting around with maybe just testing. We're going to talk to you about testing, but it might be that you're not as occupied as you were in the last week. Perhaps that'd be something you'd be interested in doing.
So if my question is, is it okay to ask? If it's okay to ask, then I'll put it on the channel. How about that?
Right. I think the general rule is, guys, always feel free to ask. Okay. We'll shoot you down straight away. We'll be nice about it, but don't feel like you can't talk to us about stuff. Don't feel like you can't ask something. So Caroline directed it to you. Put it on the channel. If it's not, we'll mention. We'll flag it.
And Caroline's last tip for
readability. Caroline, what are you going to tell us
before we go?
Okay, this is a little bit of a tricky one. I'm saying use the active voice, which means make sure that you always have a subject of your sentence who's actually doing the action. So your homework is to go look up what active voice is and come back with examples.
I was gonna ask you if you could give us some examples.
Like just, or maybe
The
even just
homework.
add like active voice versus passive voice.
No, not versus, active, just active voice.
Don't
Right, but if they
worry,
want to
the
look it
work
up,
will
it
get
might
done.
Look
help
it
them
up.
find
Look
it,
it up.
yeah.
What active voice is? Because if I tell you, you're not going to get it. It's people don't get it until they look at and see if they can figure it out.
Okay, that's the readability tip of the day.
All right, and that leaves us at 1 o'clock, which is perfect. Shall we give people 5 more minutes to get on? We're looking for people like Lance and.
Just coming on. John's.
Do we want to put up the link? Because people, I'm not sure people know that this is the link. Could you put up the link to the Zoom Mave in the code channel?
We'll do that. I'll do that.
And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stop the recording and start so we get a new one for the training.